Everybody. I have hit the record button, and this session will be recorded and it will be posted on our IPMP TV for Sub-Saharan Africa. So, welcome to the Let's Talk webinar. Today, I'm thrilled to be in conversation with Mel Bunston, the author of The Challenge of a Challenge story that was publicized and is part of the Let's Talk initiative for the EMEA chapter. Who is Mel? So you can all see Mel on the screen. Mel is a visionary leader who acts with integrity and empathy as a senior capture manager for Kinetic in the UK. Yes, she's all the way from the UK. She's a recent graduate from the IPMP Leadership Academy, and her mantra is to share learning and experience with others to help them grow. So she's been in the bidding environment for over a decade, and has been submitting bids for both public and private sectors in several industries, including IT, banknotes, security solutions, and defense. Throughout her career, she has won significant multi-hundred million pound opportunities by driving strategic thinking, forming collaborative partnerships, and driving the execution of complex projects seamlessly across the full sales cycle. Well, that's a mouthful. But IPMP has been the handrail of Mel's career. She's achieved IPMP 40 under 40 twice. She's done her foundation and she's done her practitioner certification. She's also decorated with IPMP UK awards, including Bid Excellence, Collaborative Teamwork, and Industry Innovations. Now, because her mantra is sharing learning and experiences with others, she also presented at several IPMP events, both internationally and for the UK chapter, on topics like the imposter syndrome, we all know that one, the generational bias, and the unplugged mind and strategic response management. That's just a few. There's a lot more of them. So Mel has given back to the community via her service of the UK chapter board. She started as the Chief Executive Events Officer, and then Mel was elected as the CEO last year, and she is now the Special Projects Officer for the UK chapter. So welcome, Mel. It is such a privilege to have you on this Put the Talk into Let's Talk webinar, where you are going to tell us a little bit more about your story. Over to you.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a delight to meet you all at the Sub-Saharan chapter.
That's good. That's good. So I don't know how many of you do know Mel. Myself and Marika has been in contact with Mel for the last year or so as part of the EMEA chapter. And we've got this initiative of Let's Talk, where we submit stories and then they get publicized on winning the business. Now, Mel, tell me, why do you think this story of yours, A Challenge of a Challenge, was worthy sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as bid professionals, we always strive for greatness and perfection and getting things right first time. And I think we have tools in our toolkit, such as the APMP body of knowledge, which talks through best practice. And I don't think I've ever run a bid that I could say that has gone perfectly right in every single facet. In fact, yeah, generally speaking, a bid plan has derailed the moment you've published it and given it to the rest of your team, because some curveballs come in somewhere. And I think we work in a very high pressure environment. We work in an environment that can be very stressful, and adding to that stress is this need for perfection. And I think we have a duty to each other to share those moments where things don't go perfectly and make it acceptable that things don't always go right. A lot of bid management is around how you handle those curveballs, and also you learn from when things don't go right as well. And I think we should be bold enough to say, yeah, that wasn't how I intended that to go. That certainly wasn't the plan, and here's how I've learned from it. And just kind of, we've got enough pressure in our environment anyway, without adding even more that we impose onto ourselves. So I think it's really important that we share plans where things haven't quite gone right, and where there were significant consequences as well.
Yeah, so I always say sharing is caring. A lot of people can learn from other people's mistakes. And it's also like I say to my team, learn from my mistakes, then you will not make them. But Mel, I'm not sure, just by show of hands, people, how many of you have read the story of Mel on winning the business? Just hands.
No one is fine. Like
Thomas read it. Hi, Thomas. Ilza. Okay, so, but Mel, tell us about the story that you submitted for the Let's Talk initiative.
Absolutely. So this happened a while ago now. I was leading a bid. I had a bid manager underneath me that I was also coaching and supporting as they were early careers. And actually, it felt a really good bid. The team all got on. We had your usual kind of challenges where an SME is slightly behind in giving you the documents quite when you need them, but generally speaking, things ran to time. We had a huge undertaking to do on this bid. We formed a team of over 70 organisations, where we had to get various agreements signed, understand what potential work share could look like, and all of that sort of thing. When we did things like establish team charters, and everyone from across all the organizations worked really well together, and we were really pleased with the bid that we had submitted. When we were doing the position to win, we knew it was going to be a tough race. We knew that there was a competitor that was slightly shinier than us. Their offices had a bit more smoked glass in it than us. Their labs were a little bit more Gucci than us. But we recognised that, and we knew it was going to be close. And in fact, actually, we were able to persuade our leadership team to reduce the amount of margin that we were going to put on our price, so that we were as price competitive as we could be. And that felt like a really good internal win as well, being able to persuade your organization to do something like that. So we'd definitely put our best foot forward, submitted comfortably, and when we then got the result, we had that dreaded moment of needing to open up the loss letter, right, which no one likes doing. And we thought, okay, initially they've pipped us at the post. It will be within kind of like 0.5%. I mean, that was kind of what our position to win said. If we lost, it was going to be like less than 1% difference. We opened it up, and our score was less than 50% of the total available marks. We're like, oh, what's gone wrong? Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, we said something slightly stronger than oh dear at the time, but this is being recorded, so I won't repeat exactly what we said. And we looked through, we're like, how has this happened? What's gone wrong? And then we looked through, and one of the documents that we had to provide were for all of those 70 organisations. We needed them all to sign the same agreement, which we'd done and we'd scanned in and sent, except for one page got missed. That page was our company's signature. And so the customer decided to null and void that entire document. So that entire document didn't count, and that's why they then halved pretty much all of our marks. So had we had that signature page there, we potentially would have won. So we did some investigation, and we played with the statistics that we had available to us, and we formed a position where we thought, actually, it feels like the customer's been a bit unfair here. Now, it's UK public sector, and so there's lots of procurement regulations. And I'm always the person that says, no, the customer has to play it by the book. They don't want to receive a legal challenge and things like that. And then there's me going, it feels like the customer has been biased, that they have sought a reason to exclude us, because under UK procurement regulations, if something looks like it was a mistake, they are meant to ask you a clarification question of, hey, have you forgotten something here? And they'd asked us a couple of clarification questions, asking about our pricing. So, they weren't adverse to asking questions. So why didn't they ask this question? So anyway, our company at the time was very stereotypically British, don't like raising challenges. It's not like the US where, every single tender they're straight in with a challenge. We didn't really do that over here. And so it took a lot of persuading internally in our organization to seek a legal challenge, which we did get lawyers involved, and we did put a case forward. The customer didn't accept our challenge. We could have pursued it further. That would have involved going down the courts route. We have already, with the same customer, a significant amount of work that we already do. We didn't want to risk that work and the perceptions of that work, as although legally it shouldn't affect that work. People are people at the end of the day. So at that point we withdrew. And the other company are now long delivering it, and whether they're delivering it as well as they said in their tender, who knows. But yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, so I think it's always heartbreaking when we get the Dear Johnny letter, but it's like you say, you didn't expect that percentage. But tell me, so upon investigation, you said one page has missed the scan. This is a human error. So what measures have you then, you and the business, put in place to ensure that that doesn't happen again? I know we all do check our files. We double check them, we cross check them. And this was literally a human error. So how did you avoid doing that again, even though you followed the same process? What else did you do going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think once we'd all got over the emotional response and feeling like we should have been allowed a chance to rectify the situation, and we'd kind of put our various conspiracy theories to one side, we held a white review or lessons from experience session. And this revealed two main things. So firstly, a procedure to double check these kinds of documents. We had over 70 signature pages, so it was very easy that something got missed, particularly when you're in those final few hours of a bid submission. You've worked a few late nights, you're probably not quite fully on form. And so we recognized that could happen, but we didn't want to blame anyone either, and we also didn't want to bring in some burdensome piece of governance for what is potentially one-off mistake kind of territory. So we did bring in more of an informal recommendation to have a colleague peer review large document scans, try and find someone that's not been burning too much midnight oil to do that double check. And I think actually, as we progress in IT development, particularly with AI coming in, would there in the future be some kind of tool that could do some of that check for us? Perhaps if we'd done, and this already exists today, but perhaps if we'd got the signatures done electronically through some kind of electronic signature tool rather than like paper, then we wouldn't have had to have scanned the document in at all. So there might be things from a technology aspect at all, but I think our biggest lesson was recognizing that we didn't have the customer intimacy that we thought we had, and actually if we'd had better relationships with them, then we would have known whether they wanted our solution or not. it was clear in hindsight that the competitor that we thought we'd be really close to, that they'd been in and they'd done a lot more shaping of the opportunity than we had realised. And therefore, actually, really, our error was just a convenient way to mark us down. And I am sure that even if we'd had a full set of signature pages, they'd have found another reason to have marked us down. Certainly, I can't go into details, but the questions they were asking about our pricing suggested that they were surprised that our price was so cheap. And so would they have then called us out of being unreasonably low and then try to like discount us on the pricing side of things? And yeah, so I think if they don't want someone, they'd have found a way to avoid that. And as I say, I'm normally an advocate that says UK public sector, they have to play by the rules, but here was us seeing the rules getting manipulated to their advantage. So I think this one, yeah, we scored an own goal. It would have been interesting to see if that page wasn't missing. But I think, yeah, we felt that if everything had gone the right way, that we definitely had a winning proposal.
Yeah, and then one signature page, just one.
Yeah.
Just one. Does anybody on the call have a question for Mel regarding her story? I did post the link, but not sure whether everyone had a quick read on that. But just tell us, Mel, because I know that a lot of people are sitting in their IP confidentiality challenges. How am I going to write this story? How do I navigate those challenges to go and submit my story without mentioning a client? Because it's always difficult, I think, for some people. Instead of saying client X, what can the people do? How did you go about it?
Yeah, so I mean, I've just managed to articulate to you there a story where I haven't mentioned what company I worked for, what year it took place, who the customer was, and yet you still got enough of the narrative to understand what went on. And typically the bids I work on are classified and I have to sign the Official Secrets Act, so I really do have to be careful what I say. And yeah, that story I picked there, we're all well clear of legal challenges. I think there's ways that you can not mention aspects and still you deliver a story, whether it's kind of calling it Project X rather than the name of the project, avoiding things like the value of the opportunity, the time frame of when it happened. It's kind of writing in a way that perhaps your colleagues who worked with you on that bid, they might recognize it from living it, but no one else would. And I think we do have to be careful. Do you have to be mindful of your company's policy and act in accordance with that? But yeah, there's ways of sharing what the narrative was and what the lesson was without giving away those kind of company details.
Who the client was and when it happened. It's like a long, long time ago, way back in the day. So we all come with bidding bloopers and stuff that went wrong, bid books that we set up, bid plans that the only time they work is the time we send it out. After that, it's a gray area, and we have to keep on reminding the people about their deliverables. So tell me, do you have any other bidding bloopers that you would like to share?
Absolutely.
I think we can open the floor on this as well, to everyone on the call to be able to share their bidding bloopers, because it's always interesting to hear about the other. Yes, that's coming, Marika. So
she's heard
the
my
floor
set
is yours,
before,
Mel.
clearly.
We go on. Okay, you go ahead, Mel. Tell us.
Yeah, no worries. And some of these might spur some things for yourself as well. So yeah, I think we should all, as I said at the beginning, be an advocate of sharing when things don't go right. It can be quite cathartic, and it'd be really good for our mental health as well. So please do use the chat function to share any stories. Perhaps you've had a similar experience yourselves. And Marika's just kind of put the anchor there to one of my favourites. We used to have a printer in the office called Bob Marley, because he was always jamming. Yeah, which is also one of the world's worst dad jokes that you can come up with as well. But I think printing is always a source of great anxiety. And in fact, if COVID did one good thing, it was removing the need for hard copy submissions. There was this time when I worked on a bid, and due to other business pressures, we didn't get the reviewer comments until the last minute. And ordinarily you'd kind of want to just plow on and go, oh, it's too late, thank you very much for your comments, but I wanted them 2 weeks ago. But actually they were really useful comments, and they were definitely things that were going to improve our marks. So we definitely wanted to include them in there. And it meant that we then we crushed our timelines, and were making edits on the day that we were due to print the document. Absolutely not what we wanted to do. But anyway, we finished printing at 3 a.m. Drove down to the town that we had to deliver it in, which was about an hour and a half away. And we'd booked a hotel, and I'd been phoning up the hotel going, yeah, we're going to be arriving at you very late, yeah, but yeah, please, yeah, we are still coming, I promise you. Well, anyway, obviously by the time we got there, it was closer to 5 in the morning, and they didn't think we were coming, so they cancelled our rooms. So we spent 20 minutes in front of the reception, and that 20 minutes felt like 3 hours because we were very, very tired. And I definitely wouldn't advocate driving that tired to anyone. It was caffeine and adrenaline that definitely kept me going. And also when you're that tired, you make some really interesting decisions. So we knew that obviously there was a risk of driving at that time, and we had to print multiple hard copies. So there was like at least 2 of each document. So I had half in my car, my colleague had half in their car, and our rationale behind that was if one of us crashed, we were still submitting a whole set of documents. Like I say, when you are tired, you make some interesting decisions. The sensible decision would have been to have got someone who wasn't so tired to drive the documents, but yeah, we didn't do that. So yeah. And then the other thing that was a really interesting observation is that we went to bed very tired. I got up. I took like the 4 hours sleep, if that we got, but I still got up in time to have a shower and put on some fresh clothes, because bearing in mind we'd been working in the office since like 8 a.m. the previous day. My colleague wanted that extra 30 minutes in bed, came down to deliver, still wearing the clothes from the night before. Either way, we looked a mess between us, but we delivered them, and we did actually win the bid, so it was kind of worth the effort. Yay, all in. But there's certain things that I definitely wouldn't want to repeat from that. And I am glad that now our customers tend to use portal submissions, printing off documents and hand delivering them hopefully is a thing of the past. But yeah, I think my need for that kind of level of control comes from a different delivery disaster that I had. And this was one of my first jobs that I did after graduating. I was in a small company, and we were doing a bid into the Canadian government, and we'd arranged a courier. It was something like DHL, in plenty of time, filled out all the paperwork, had paid for a premium kind of like guaranteed service and all that sort of thing. And I was tracking this document like literally by minute. I mean, I might as well have been in the van with the delivery driver, watching this document move across the country and then get in a plane at Heathrow and fly over and all that sort of stuff. And it got to Canada, and then it stayed in the Canadian customs, and it stayed there, and it stayed there, and it stayed there. And the deadline was coming, and those documents were not moving out of the Canadian customs. So I made some inquiries as to why it had been held up, and the long and short of it is that because I had said that there were documents inside on the customs declaration form, but didn't say that those documents were in a ring binder, they felt the need to open up the parcel, of which they do in their own time, regardless of what kind of courier service that you've paid for. And needless to say, it was held up for so long, we missed the deadline and we weren't able to be evaluated. It felt like a huge waste of effort and physical money as well, in terms of paying for that courier. And one of the things that I said to myself is, going forward, I always want to be in control of the delivery. I don't want to use a courier. I would rather hand carry these items. Unfortunately, that means you then end up being the control freak in the previous story, that then is driving at 3 in the morning. So there's a middle road. But yeah, certainly, I've had my fair share of delivery disasters. I don't know, has anyone else had a similar kind of experience?
Anyone?
Marika, yeah. It wasn't customs, but something similar with documents. Actually, everybody was okay, but the courier service, and when they had to deliver the tender, was hijacked on the way to deliver the documents. So, I mean, those things you just cannot avoid, right? So there wasn't really an alternative. I mean, these things happen. Sometimes there is just not a solution to the situation that occurred. So everybody was okay, but the truck was hijacked and the documents were all ripped open apart on the side of the road. And yeah, that was that. And last thing is similar, Mel, to your previous story. We had a situation also, it's a public sector client where you have to print and you have to fill in the document by hand, and not just the entire document, the pricing sheet. You have to fill that in by hand. And, last minute changes happen, and which also we just did not scan in the pricing sheet because, it was a last minute change and you're busy wrapping and packaging and you check the files 100% because you make sure turning page for page that it aligns with index and you've got all your documents, but you forgot to scan the last one in and updated the USB. And the measure that we've put in place is just one person will scan and the other person will take the USB or scanned document, and not the file where you uploaded your scanned documents, the actual USB that goes to the client. Open that one, and you don't just, because generally we tend to just check the file names that are in there. We don't open each document because you assume I've checked it 100 times. So we get another person within the team just to open each document as we're scanning and continue finalizing it, and check each page number. Each page number was signed, initialed, etc. Because what happened, not only did we not scan in sorry, the commercial sheet, but when you scan it back, sorry, the signature or initial was cut off. You couldn't see it. The signature was there, initial was there, but the way you scan it, you made the initial too low on the page. So it's silly things like that. So now we also know when you do initial, you don't sign in the corner end of the page. You sign, more up to the middle of the page or quarter of the page. So those are just things that come with lessons learned, right? Because it's, in my mind, it's silly things that you don't even think about. Only until they happen, you realize it could be a bigger issue.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Don't initial in the corner because there's always that margin. Wendy, thanks, Marika. Wendy had a hand up. Wendy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and hi, Mel. So in South Africa, public sector still submitted physically. So we had a public sector tender that needed to be delivered in Pretoria, and we had like a half an hour in which to drive, and it was more than a half an hour's trip. And so our silly volunteered to drive because I do like driving fast. So that's what we did. And we had to break the speed limit. And, you know, in hindsight, you think, was it really worth
So dangerous.
perhaps
Yeah.
smashing my car for a
Mm.
public sector tender, you know?
You need to
Yeah.
find a rich uncle with a helicopter, and then that would have got you there
Yes.
quicker, right?
Yes, exactly. So,
But yeah,
but you're
I think
right. When you're working long hours, you don't think carefully. And yeah, it was actually in hindsight not a clever decision. We did deliver it on time, but yeah.
yeah, I think
Sorry.
we've all done things that when you're thinking more rationally,
Yeah.
actually it was quite dangerous. You've put your life on the line for a company, and to what extent would you get that value back from that company? I think we do need to be mindful that some of the things that we do in the best interest for our organization might not be the best for us for our health. Marika, has anyone ever totaled their car whilst has anyone wrapped a tender in the car while someone is driving to the destination? What do you mean by wrapped a tender? Sorry, that's a
So
Wrap the tender with an
you
envelope
you
label.
wrap
Oh,
it
you're
in
literally packaging it whilst you're
you're
in transit.
packaging it. You wrap it
Ah.
in brown paper, sticky tape, sellotape, scissors, trying to cut all of that and wrap it while you drive. Someone else is driving to delivery.
So, Mel, Nicole's got a question for
Sure.
you. So, management buy-in is important in the work
Mm.
we do, and often we have to manage the senior managers as well.
Absolutely.
On the Ron and Nicole, I hope this is for Mel. How did you manage
Yes.
the senior managers and their reaction?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think we'd worked quite closely with our senior leadership team to brief them all the way throughout the process. We definitely we didn't try and sugarcoat our position to win. We were quite honest with them and said that we thought it was going to be a close race. And I think they actually appreciated our honesty on that, because quite often big teams go in and go, yeah, of course we're going to win this. And then we don't. And then they're like, but you told us we were definitely going to win this. So, it's kind of being honest with your leadership team from the start. And then when we received that loss letter, we gave ourselves half a day before we took it to our leadership team so that we had done that analysis ourselves. So we didn't just kind of present them with a problem. We presented them, we said, this is the problem, and here's our analysis that we've done, and therefore we've got these three options that we would like to pursue, kind of thing. And that meant that, again, we went in with a very honest approach to our leaders, and that's how they then backed us on our ask to get lawyers involved to challenge the decisions. I think for us, it was a couple of things. It was being really honest with our leadership team throughout the whole process, so that they were on our side throughout. I think it's sometimes taking that pause and not necessarily rushing to them with news, good or bad, but take that time to do that so what analysis, and then you can present to them in a more kind of factual manner. But yeah, I mean, they were just as it was really interesting, because they were just as annoyed on our behalf. They weren't annoyed with us. They were definitely annoyed that the customer hadn't given us that opportunity to rectify. So
Yeah.
we had the leadership team, championing us and championing what we wanted to do, which is really powerful. And this
Yeah.
decision had to go all the way up to the CEO. So, we had to manage our stakeholders.
Yeah, so it's not a bidding blooper, but talking about the wrapping and the clients and the public sector bids, we recently submitted a very large public sector bid. And the guy stood there until 12 o'clock when they came to fetch all the tenders, because he took photos, he submitted it. What they do is they'll take a photo when they put it into the box, here it goes, boom, there it's gone. So this guy took the photo that he submitted the bid. And then at 12 o'clock they came and they took all the tenders. So it's like a shopping cart they had. and they put all the tenders on there. So on the photos, you can see our tender. It was labeled correct. Everything was on there that was supposed to be on there. And the next moment, we get the submission details of all the companies that submitted, and our name was not on the list. And I started panicking, and I'm like, where's our name? It should be on there. And he said he doesn't know, but he did call them. Then he sends me a photo where the lady was walking with this card, and our file was on the edge. So it looks like it's going to tip off of that specific card. So he asks me, do you think it might have fell off and she didn't notice it? I said, yeah, well, definitely, because it was on that card. So it was supposed to be with that bundle of bits. Then he came back and he said, no, he spoke to the client. It was in error of them put with other tenders. And I said, well, how do you do that? Because it's got a tender number on, so it doesn't match the others. He said, no, don't worry. The client will send an updated list of all the submitted bidders. So, I mean, that frantic moment when it's sort of like opening your Dear Johnny letter and seeing that you've lost by so many percentage, it's like, where's our name? My name should be there. It's not there. And you immediately start to think, well, I started to think, was I disqualified and they didn't put my name on? Did I do this? Was it labeled correct? So I started to do investigation on my side to see, did I miss something? Because I feel they're going to blame me, because that's what we feel like. And then he said, no, he spoke to the client. And the moment he said that, I felt very much relieved. I cannot tell you that, okay, I did wrap it correctly. I do have all the details. Everything is in there. I'm not qualified. So I think that's another thing, is when you don't see your name, don't shy away from asking the client what happened, because yes, we submitted. Yes, the photos, and photos don't lie unless they photoshopped or it's an AI. You never know.
Well, and I think, you know, part of bid management, you almost feel like you're a crime scene investigator before the crimes happened, because you just feel like that need to have evidence of everything and take receipts of everything, so that you've got that if something doesn't go the way that you've got it planned, you can go, well, actually, I did my bit. So yeah, I think
Yes.
I never delete anything. I've always got evidence of everything.
Maggie,
Who else has
nightmares when you go to sleep after a big tender submission? Tell us about your nightmares, Maggie.
Yeah, so it's normally a week before production and normally a week after production. So the week before production, I confirm the stationery is there, the files is there, you know, printing paper or sticker paper for the labels. And then you go to sleep. Okay, now there's no more sticker paper. Then you have your little glue, the Prit glue, and then it's an arts and crafts with purple files for the submission. And then when everything is done and you relax, then you think, okay, now I can sleep. And then you go to sleep, and then, okay, it's evaluation, and okay, where's this? But you know, you did scan it and it's there and it's in the file, and then, but it's not there. They show you in your dreams it's not there. And then the next morning you go back to check your soft copy, it's there.
Yeah, all the time.
You
And
start
I think,
hallucinating.
yes. And even with portal submissions, there's hovering the mouse over that submit button, you evoke some really big anxiety. And I know lots of people that will stare at that button for ages before they actually press submit. And on certain UK portals, you can press submit, and you can, if you're still within the deadline, you can undo that submit, add more documents, and resubmit it. So pressing that submit button isn't like the end of the world, but you all kind of like think that it is. You know, you're kind of go, oh, I've got to get this right this time, first time. And yeah, I think I think that anxiety around submission, whether it's physical copies or online, is genuinely real.
Yeah. Someone else also had the hand up, Alyssa.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Belinda. Yes, I did have my hand up. I just wanted to tell one of my nightmares. It's going to be quick. There was a time where I worked at this one company and we did a lot of run rate opportunities. So everything was typically on the go, very public sector based. So we had a lot of opportunities that we had to file. I think at one point we were busy with 3 submissions, and I left the office and I went in the following day, obviously dreaming about production happening. And I think I was chased by the printer in my dream, which is very scary. Yeah, that's my story in a nutshell. Felt like sharing.
Your
I feel like
nightmare.
we could do a series on the bizarre work-related dreams that you've had. So I've had a couple of really weird dreams in the last few months, actually. One, I had a dream that my customer was in our Portsmouth office and needed CPR. Don't go there. And then there's another one. I had a colleague that I was working with who manifested himself as a spider, and you had to carry this spider, who was my colleague, who was the name of the real person. You had to carry him from meeting room to meeting room, and he spoke, and I don't do spiders. But yeah, I was carrying him in my dream. Yeah, like, bizarre. So maybe there's a Let's Talk spin-off series of like the world's weirdest work-related dreams that you've had, because that's definitely up there with being chased by a printer.
Yeah,
Belinda,
no,
maybe that should be an idea for another webinar. We can just share our sad
your
stories.
nightmares.
All these puns, spin-off and webinar, all spider related.
That will
There's a
definitely
lot
be
of
in my dreams.
spiders. Marika?
I've got a last story. So it was a big client, and I kid you not, we had 36 files that we needed to submit. 36, because it was one of those where commercials go separate times 3 and technical goes separate times 3, mandatories go and. With result, we had to put these files into boxes to carry them. And as we were going in the next morning to finalize the last bits, the submission was due at 11 o'clock. We were all at the office at 6, trying to finish the last bits and bobs. There was no Wi-Fi in the office, which means how does Wi-Fi not work at the office, right? And it resulted in not being able to connect it to the printer to print the last bits, because you could all hotspot, and that's a solution. But to get connection to the printer to print the last bits and bobs, we had a team of, I kid you not, I think it was about 8 people that pulled in together. The one was printing, the one was making copies, the other one was wrapping, the other one was punching in the file. We had like a whole production line that morning, and we just pulled in people that were sitting randomly in the office. They weren't even part of the bid team. They were just pulled in to come and help. And we said, they all look at us and say, what do you want me to do? We're like, do you know how to punch? Let me show you how to punch, because you have to punch a specific way. And do you know how to use sellotape? Have you ever wrapped presents? So any case, we had about 4 or 5 boxes, I can't remember exactly. And the client wasn't too far away from our office, but we drove to the client. I think we were 1 minute late. We had 1 minute to spare for the first box. But the others weren't ready yet. They were still being in production, printing and wrapped and copied, etc.
Oh dear.
We went to the delivery side of the client so that nobody could see that we're coming in late. So we went into the delivery side, 1 minute to spare, we signed the register. So the first box was delivered. And then we said to them, the reason why the other boxes are not here, we drove in a small car, is we couldn't fit them all in the car. The other cars are on their way. They're on their way. And kid you not, 3 people were coming with the other boxes, delivering them one by one as they were finished. to deliver the boxes to the client in the delivery area. It was just the most bizarre and hilarious situation. I think everybody, when they got back, just burst out in tears because of that. I don't think it was anger. It was just that adrenaline rush and like this, did this really happen? And almost glad that you actually did get to submit it after all of that, panic and anxiety. So yeah, that was our delivery of 5 or 6 boxes in kind of a tandem to the delivery office. Yeah.
Amazing. I can see in the chat that
those
Monica's got a
boxes.
story about being arrested, and I really want to hear Monica's almost being arrested story, if Monica would share.
So thanks, Mel. I've been arrested officially 4 times, but not convicted, any of them. And one of them was for proposals. So it was a while ago, just over 7 years ago. We work in Johannesburg, and we worked through the night, and we were struggling with specifics because we had to get Exco to sign off on all the fees and the financials and stuff. So we ended up only getting the signature because the partner was on a flight from, I think it was from the UK, all the way back to South Africa, and we had to get his signature for this because only Exco was allowed to sign off. And we managed to get his signature. We quickly scanned it, and the guy we arranged to deliver the documents, he just said, listen, I'm not prepared to go over the speed limit. I'm sorry. And my boss said, just grab the bloody stuff. We'll go and deliver it ourselves. And we were in his car, and I didn't realize I grabbed the wrong shoes, because when you go into the office, you've got these professional shoes, and then when you're in the office and you have to run around and do stuff, that's when you put on your tackies or your flat shoes and you maneuver. And I'd realized I grabbed the wrong shoes, and as I was running to the car, I thought, oh shit, something's going to happen. And just managing to get the proposals in the car. He was driving like a horrible person, shouting. I never saw that side of the man ever in my life. We got to the entrance of the place, but they had 2 sets of booms, and they insisted that he had to sign in, and he, with a rush, he forgot to take his wallet to show his ID, that scan thing. And I said to him, listen, we've got like 3 minutes. The building is far. I'm going to get out and I'm going to run. So as I get out, I kicked my shoes out and I left it in his car. And I was running barefoot to this main building. And the security thought I had a bomb in my hand. So they called the police. They ran after me. My boss tried to save me because he thought this guy's going to tackle me. And now, leaving his car right there, other security saw this. They ran. They tried to stop him, but he's a very tall guy. So I rushed into the booms, and it's like those rotating doors. I bang, 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 leave, 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 leave. I want to get in. I want to get in. And I was shouting at people to stop using the rotating thing because I want to get in. And here comes this tall guy, and he's trying to keep security from stopping me because I want to submit the proposal. I ran in, finally got through the doors, and signed the register. I just signed. This is us. Here's my documents. And this guy, he thought I was hilarious coming in there barefoot. But little to his surprise, here comes my big boss with like 2 or 3 security guys running after him. And he's just saying, leave me, this is important, this is important. And I'm there, I just delivered. And the police in the meantime arrived. They came through the sliding doors, and there was a whole lot of confusion. And it took us a while in their private boardroom to explain that there's no bomb. So we signed the document. They accepted the proposal, but the document, the package was confiscated to double check that there is no bomb involved and all of that, because no bomb. But I'm very pleased to announce that we actually did win that proposal. So it was all worth it. It was all worth it.
I feel like you deserve the win after that.
I most definitely deserved to win. Well, They wouldn't have even had to evaluate the others to show the determination of your business of that time in getting the proposal delivered, which is a indication of how you guys will deliver the work for that specific project.
Yeah, funny enough, with the debrief, they did mention that it was the first time that they were able to test their own security as well, and they realized they had to do that. They needed our firm even more because this was the best practice run to check if their own systems was in place, and it wasn't, because it was way too small. We were already drinking cool drinks, but they offered us when the own security started to do pull the security feed and all of that. So it was meant to be. That's what it was.
I think
So
what we've heard here is a number of stories that I think until you experience this, who would know that this is part of the stuff that we do, particularly when it comes to submitting. None of this is in the body of knowledge. None of this is
No.
documented anywhere that says sometimes you have to run barefoot to your customers to deliver the bid on time. And I think it's all part of the hidden things that we do, and this is the whole principle of Let's Talk. It's around sharing these experiences, using this as an opportunity to learn, and yeah, just as the comment says there, it can be quite therapeutic sharing this as well. So yeah, go the extra mile, and some.
And Monica, just so you know, our EMEA chapter leader, Nina Christiansen, she asked that you please publish this story. You must write it up for us.
You know what? I'll do that for you. So just don't worry. I've got a lot. We should start a book, because the most recent one was the quietest. It was the coldest day in Johannesburg recently, and it was a big public company that we had to do. We worked through the night. Mel mentioned it earlier about that quality checks, and you know the quality checks where you check, oh frack, something went wrong. We saw something went wrong. We worked through the night. We only left that evening bibbering from cold. We were hungry. Wasn't prepared for this. And the next morning we came in, but it was the coldest day of the year so far. And the delivery guy, or the manager who was delivering the proposal, he was there with me, but he came in from far, and he obviously had his aircon on, but his aircon was on 28. Now, guys, you must understand, if you're already stressed up, you're already hot, you're already not cold. There's no way for you to be cold when you are in a rush. That morning, we managed to do everything. There was a power failure because of the cold. We were trying to scan the documents. We ended up scanning it with a manual printer. It was horrible. So we were sitting in the print room, and the partner realized, but these guys are not gone yet. Now, it wasn't too far from our office. It was like a half an hour's drive. And he came down and he said, come, take the printer, take the laptop on your lap. Now, Vuyani was one of my colleagues, and he told me, Vuyani, where's your car keys? And he took Vuyani's car keys, and it was a BMW, but like a smart, nice one. And you guys must understand, there's rules when it comes to a guy's car. You don't just take his car. He drives the car. You do what you need to do. And we were driving and we were chasing, and I was thinking, frack it, I'm getting old. I'm going into menopause. This is horrible. At some stage you need to calm down. But I was trying to save everything on the laptop and you name it properly, because they can throw you out on this. And it was going through, and he was chasing through Johannesburg. It was horrible, and I was getting nauseous, and the heat was hitting me. And I thought, oh, Monica, you're going into menopause. This is horrible. You must see a doctor after this. Your heart is not going to hold. This menopause is going to be awful for your public persona, because guys, I was starting to sweat, and I don't like it when I sweat. You stink. I don't know about you guys, but I stink when I sweat. And we got to the entrance, and the security guy said, and he pulled down his window, and it was like, the gates of heaven, that wind that came in. I said, shit, Vuyani, this is hot. What happened? there's a cold wind coming in. And he said, oh, Monica, I forgot to put the aircon off. And you guys, it was 28 degrees in a car. We were trying to not vomit in his car. And as we drove up, I couldn't help, and I vomited a little bit. And I grabbed the next jacket in his car, and I said, I'm sorry, I couldn't help. And I was sweating and I was stinking. And as we got through to the delivery area, the guys saw my face and they offered me water, and they said, listen, you fine. We were there in time, 10 minutes in time to submit. We haven't been evaluated yet, but it was a horrible, horrible experience. So untold stories, we should all start a book. There's a lot more.
Absolutely. And that's what Let's Talk is. So Let's Talk is our virtual book, our ability to collect those short stories. So it gets published on Winning the Business as an individual article. And absolutely, once we've got a collection of loads of stories, we can do something really clever with how we publish them and raise awareness of them. So any of these stories that folks have shared today, please do. Belinda's dropped various links in. One of them's a link to the form to populate your story. Do go into there, put your story down, and we can get these published. And that's our EMEA chapters collective book of short stories.
So before we close out, let's just give Boitsepo a chance. She's got a hand up for quite a while. Boitsepo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, B. Firstly, thank you, Mel, and thank you everyone on the platform for sharing your stories. This has been a wonderful safe space, and it's so comforting knowing that we all face similar challenges, if not the same. I really think as bid professionals, we need to let our stakeholders in on our challenges and educate them on risks involved. Stakeholders don't understand the need for certain timelines and think we're impossible on expectations, but all these reasons are exactly why timelines are in place. Human error, technology, logistics. I mean, I was submitting a tender on Monday and had to scan onto USB, and the network and all the printers in the building were not working. 45 minutes later, yes, they kicked in. However, 45 minutes is a lot when you are chasing a deadline. So in order to minimize our challenges, we really need to communicate the risks upfront to stakeholders. Mel, you just said that nobody knows the dramas we go through. And if we don't communicate the risks, who would know?
No, so you can tell them as much as you want to, but they don't want to know about it. So it's sort of like they just brush it off. But thanks for sharing that, Boitsepo.
Until you start
Luckily,
to
and
into their business continuity plan. Sorry.
Yeah, hopefully your tender did get scanned and get in. So guys, there's a few people that needs to drop. Just first of all, thank you, Mel, for joining this webinar. I think your story, as well as all the other stories, is just a reminder of that we all face the same challenges when it comes to bidding. And as I always say, sharing is caring. And we can all learn from one another. And to the audience, thank you for joining, number one. And also thank you to those who shared their interesting, arresting menopause, printer stories, wrapping paper cuts. We all enjoyed that. So as we ask, please go and submit your stories on the link that was shared there. So you don't share it for free, right? You do get something because we like to give something back to the people. That's what we do. So you get 3 CEUs for writing and having your story published. When you do a story with someone, the leader of the story gets 5 CEUs and the contributor gets 3 CEUs. And I'm going to leave the last one on the competition for you to give them just a brief update, Mel, on the competition that we are busy with for the stories of the Let's Talk chapter.
Yeah, so we're in the process of designing three competitions at the moment. The plan is to have one run from August to September, another one October to November, and then there'll be a third one that's an enduring one. But the first 2 will be prize draws based on submission. So anyone who puts an entry into that link that Belinda shared will be eligible for those. And then the third one is we'll have some judges, and we'll be judging the best story that has been submitted this year, and we'll announce that just before Christmas. I'll be somewhat vague on details. We're yet to formalise this as a group, and then we'll publish what those exact competition details are. But just to give you guys some hot off the press early insights.
Yes. So just so you know, as I said, we like to give something. So that's what you can look forward to. I've dropped all the links to everything that you need. Mel's story, winning the business. There's another story on winning the business as well. And then submitting your story, as well as the link to LinkedIn where you can find that. Should you ever lose it, just search for Let's Talk or reach out to us. So from my side, once again, thank you, everybody. Handing back over to Mel for closeout.
Thank you. It's been a great morning with you folks. Thank you for sharing your stories as well. And I look forward to reading some when they come through on the platform.
Yes. Thank you all. Have a good day. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.